Hello, everyone. This is Kirill from ContentQuo, and we'll be starting the webinar shortly. Please stay tuned. We'll wait for a couple of seconds for the rest of you to join, and then we will kick off. Thank you for coming today. Even if I don't see you, it's lovely to have you here. So this is what we'll do in the beginning. I will share my slides first. And then, of course, we will begin. I do hope you can see my slides, can you? Please type yes into the chat window. Hey, that's great. Please get comfortable. This is still Kirill here from ContentQuo. Thanks for coming to the webinar. So we'll wait probably for another minute, and then we will get going with the webinar. All right. Lovely to see so many people. Please come on in, get comfortable. We'll start in a very short while. And we'll talk about how LSPs can grow their sales with translation quality services, as you probably expect. So I'm looking at my watch here. I'm nervous to begin. And another 30 seconds before we dive right in. How are you doing today? All righty. So, shall we start? I think we shall start. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Kirill Soloviev. I'm with ContentQuo, and we're doing this live webinar today. It's the 14th of January, 2021. Thank you everyone for making it through the previous COVID-ridden year. I'm very happy that everyone can join us today. So we'll talk about sales today. This webinar is specifically for language service providers, and I'll share some ideas, tips and tricks and tactics of how you could grow the sales of your LSP by offering what we call translation quality services. Now, I will explain briefly how this webinar will work. So first of all, who is it for? Just to make sure you guys ended up at the right place. This is targeted at language service providers, so companies who sell all kinds of language services. I hope if you're here, you're exactly this type of company, mostly medium LSPs, but if you're a small LSP, don't worry. You can also use learnings from this webinar, especially if you want to focus on quality related or machine translation related services. And if you work for a larger LSP, I do hope you'll find it useful, especially if you specialize in selling translation quality related services as part of your job. If you're an independent consultant, that's great. I do hope you'll pick up some interesting ideas that we could then explore together further. And hopefully you are either focused on sales or account management or both, right? I'm not going to go into technology. I'm not going to go into production details. This is mostly about how to win deals, how to build new lines of business. But if you come from a production background, please stay. You will definitely learn something new. Now, we'll try to cater for different levels of your expertise with selling translation quality services. You can be very new to that. You've never sold anything like that before. That's fine. You'll learn a lot of things today. You might already have some open deals that involve translation quality as a component. You will definitely benefit from this. And even if you have been selling this kind of services before, I do hope you'll find it useful as well. So what are we going to cover today in the next 40 or so minutes? So we'll look at why you would actually want to bother to consider selling translation quality as a service and why it's a great line of business for LSPs. We'll look at some example deals, some case studies from other LSPs that have successfully sold translation quality services before, either for human translation or for MT. I'll have both types of case studies for you today. And finally, of course, we'll look at how ContentQuo can help your company, your team, actually close more deals and win more business. Oh, by the way, we'll also look at how we can help you increase the margins as well in those services, but that's a nice cherry on the top. Last but not least, if you're watching it live, and I really hope you guys are watching it live, we're doing something special here just during this very live webinar. This is not going to work if you watch it later in the recording. We're basically giving away 5 slots to help you get a free consultation from myself about how to actually close a specific deal of yours that might have translation quality services, either for MT or for human translation as a component. I only have 5 slots open for January, so please book early. This link will expire shortly after the webinar ends. And I will remind you about this later as we go, and also post the link into the chat window so you can actually use this opportunity if you want. All right. Does this make sense to you guys? Can you type yes or no into the chat window just to make sure you're all here and all still awake at this late hour if you're in Europe, or this early hour if you're in the States? Awesome. Good to see some familiar names. Perfect. Cool. I'll give you a very brief introduction about myself. I know some people might have not seen me before, and I'll also briefly explain what ContentQuo as a company is about, and then we'll go right into the juicy details. My name is still Kirill Soloviev. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ContentQuo. I will talk about the company later. I've been in the translation and localization industry for the past 18 years, give or take. Done a lot of things. I started my career on the LSP side, then moved to the translation buyer side and managed a localization department for a global software company for a number of years. And now I'm in translation technology. When I'm not doing my thing, not doing the webinars, I do other things. I used to speak at conferences. You might have seen me on stage before at events like Gala or Lockworld or Taos. I used to travel around Europe, also a bit to the States and Asia, hopping around the place, meeting some of our customers and partners. In my spare time, I also love doing digital photography, especially if it's black and white. I love riding around on my bike, at least when it's not snowing. And right now, I'm actually in luck. I'm in the north of Europe, by the way, in this beautiful town of Tallinn in Estonia, and it's actually stopped snowing. It's been crazy, crazy high amounts of snow lately. So yeah, biking is out of question for the next 6 months for me, but in summer, I hope to get back to that. I also love playing musical instruments, most of them badly, but I enjoy this very much. And sometimes I also love to engage in hackathons and build amazing technological prototypes over the weekend with amazingly smart people. ContentQuo. We are not an LSP. You guys might have figured this out. We're actually a translation technology company. We were founded in 2015, so I'm the co-founder and CEO. It was a very simple premise. So between myself and my co-founder, Alexander, we figured out that translation quality is actually a big mess. So we set out to build amazing software to help this industry solve some of this mess. And I think we're pretty successful. We've been working with some amazing customers over the past couple of years since we've been on the market. Global Top-10 LSPs, major translation buyers like the European Parliament, National Instruments, and many other names I'm not going to bother you with. Suffice to say, we've done it all. We know a bit about translation quality services, and that's exactly what I want to share with you today. Some ideas of how you or your LSP can use some of our learnings in order to close more deals and win more sales. Now, let's do this super quick. I really like to know my audience. I'll start a quick Zoom poll. It's just one question, literally about 15 seconds. Can you please answer that for me right now? And the poll is out. The question is super simple. Have you guys already sold any kind of services that involve translation quality as a component? I don't know, third-party review, language quality assurance, evaluation of machine translation engines, whatever, right? I just want to know where the audience is today so that I can adjust what I share a little bit better to your needs. Yes or no, on how much, right? Is this a major part? You do have a lot of deals like that. Are you just starting out? Have you been doing this for ages? I basically just want to know where you stand. I'll give you 20 more seconds to vote. All right, 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. And voting now. And I'll share the results. Can you guys see them? So it seems that the majority of you has already done some sales, but there's also a significant part that actually wants to begin with this line of business. Maybe not that urgently, but in the next year. Oh, sorry, in this year, of course. This is great. This is great. So I now have a much better picture of who we have here today. And if you're watching this in the recording, despair not, this will still be useful. I will keep going. If you guys have a moment, just type in very briefly, especially if I don't know you and it's the first time you're meeting me, please type in your role in the company. What do you actually do? Are you in sales? Are you in account management? Are you in the C-suite? And what kind of things is the most troublesome component for you when thinking about translation quality services or trying to sell them? And I will now try to get you a bit more interested in, especially if you have not been offering this kind of services before. So maybe you should, and I'll give you a couple of ideas on why is that. I honestly believe that translation quality services are great for LSPs to sell, especially if you're smaller companies. What's the funniest part is that you actually don't have to sell your own translation quality. This is a bit counterintuitive, especially if you've been selling traditional translation services before, but hear me out. So what I'm talking about is not how to sell your own high quality translations. I think you guys know exactly how to do that if you're still in this business after so many years. What I am talking about is how to use the quality of translations done by other entities, other LSPs, other translation agencies, other empty engines, and use that to drive your revenue, okay? I have a funny example for you. If you can check out the screen, you'll actually see that. How many of you guys have actually heard about this blunder from Amazon launching in Sweden? I think this was October 2020. Just type in yes if you did, or no if you did. So Amazon actually launched their e-commerce offering in Sweden. And boy, they made a huge ripple in the media because they messed up quality big time. You can see the gory details in the screenshot. Yeah, so I will spare you the explanations. But the reason I put this here, I actually believe we can learn a lot from this example as LSPs who are thinking to sell translation quality as a service. Let's try this out. Okay, you guys know that Amazon has messed up big time, okay? You've seen the headlines, you've heard the news. Their translation quality is basically awful, right? They missed a lot of obscene words and swear words that actually made it through and are visible to end users. Like, it's basically a huge mess, a huge pile of dung, okay? Now, how would you go about selling something to Amazon as an LSP who is in a position to fix that kind of quality issue? Type in your ideas into the chat windows. What exactly will you sell? And I have some pictures here on the slide to kind of inspire or guide you. And of course, I have the right answer that I will show you, at least the one that's right for me. But I think there are two options to sell in this circumstance. So remember, with LSPs, we're selling language services, like machine translation, whatever kind, right? You want to help Amazon fix that blunder. How would you pitch? What would you suggest to them? So the way I like to think about it is, if I were a huge, very successful like LSP, like a global top 10 LSP, if I were Lionbridge, okay, how would I go about selling to Amazon after hearing those headlines? Just super quick, I don't know, 3 words, like what exactly would you pitch? How would you pitch? Would you pitch your services? What kind of services? So just go through this idea in my mind. Amazon messed up their translation quality in Swedish, right? So how can we exploit this opportunity to get in the door or to expand our business with Amazon if we already have them as an account? That's creative, Steve. Thanks very much for sharing. I'm not sure that would exactly help your company sell to Amazon, but maybe. Okay, I'll make it simple. I have 2 options, like 2 very simple approaches that I see here. Number one approach, selling to Amazon in this kind of situation. And I think that's like something that's very traditional in this industry. You would say something like, hey, you guys messed up. Your LSP has messed up. Your machine translation provider has messed up. But us, we will never mess up like that. Our quality is the best. See the certifications that we have. See the processes that we have. If you chose our LSP, that thing in Swedish would never happen, okay? So that's basically one simple way I see of how to pitch this kind of services to Amazon in this situation. Now, there's actually another way, okay? I'm sure many of you guys know it, but I still want to explain, especially for those who are not selling those kind of services yet. Instead of trying to position yourself as a number 1 in quality, which is a fight that's very difficult to win in the year 2021. I'm sure you've tried that before. Instead of trying to prove your translations are going to be the best, how about we do something differently? How about we sell to them the knowledge of how good or bad their translations actually are, without selling the translations themselves. So this is what I call selling linguistic quality or translation quality services. And we have the small buzzword, data-driven. So this is about using numbers and metrics to put some kind of a measure on how good or bad your translation quality or other people's translation quality is, and use that to actually drive new business. I'm not sure if any of you have actually tried pitching that to Amazon in that particular situation. If you did that, by all means, please let us know in the chat window. I want to interview you. But maybe, just maybe, this is something that would have worked. So this is basically what we're talking about here, how to sell this kind of services. And there are a bunch of services you can actually offer as an LSP in order to drive additional revenue, regardless of whether you are trying to sell to Amazon, who messed up their quality big time, or you're trying to sell to someone else. So yeah, just a couple of ideas. If you have machine translation, which is most likely what was behind the scenes at Amazon, you could sell the assessment of machine translation engines and their training results. If this were human translation, you could sell independent quality assessment, like some of you are already doing in the chat window. I think Steve mentioned that, even pitching to Amazon. And there are many other ways of how you could put together a specific service that you could offer to inspect or to get paid to earn from inspecting other companies or other machine translation engines translations and gathering data, gathering feedback on how good or bad this actually are. So this is basically what we're talking about. This is the type of business. This is a line of business that it's definitely possible to exploit for your LSP. Now, when we sell translation quality services, Like we had so many examples on the previous slide, like this in-country review or machine translation engine selection or analysis of linguistic testing results or analysis of post-editing results, right? But what do we really sell when we sell that stuff? I think there are like three major things here behind the scenes, like in the brains of our prospects. One is transparency. I used to be a localization manager before, and one thing I always wanted to be, I wanted to be in control of my translations. And it's really hard to do when you have 10, 20, 30, 40 language pairs in your portfolio. You'll never speak them all. You have no idea of how good or bad those translations are. So this is one thing that we're selling. We're selling transparency, we're selling visibility, we're selling control over translations. Number two, when we have control, when we have transparency, we know exactly how good or bad our translations are. What do we do with that? What do our buyers actually do with that information? And this is super simple. They either use this info to push down, like if you have been inspecting the quality of their original translation providers' translations, they can use the metrics, the quality KPIs you have gathered for them to push down on their existing vendor, give them feedback, and help them translate better. Or maybe negotiate better rates, or maybe change them if it's really bad. You guys know the drill. You know how it goes. This is what we call downward leverage. So pushing down on your supply chain with the quality metrics. And it's a very popular thing to do. I am sure you guys have done this yourself in your own production process to push down on your suppliers, right? So this just keeps happening all the way through the supply chain, up and down. And number three driver, when we sell translation quality related services, what the data is useful for is for managing upwards, because localization teams, people who buy translations, they also have a boss to report to, and they usually need to look good in front of that boss, which, especially for companies with a complex organizational structure, means you have to explain how the translations work, and you have to make them more transparent, more easily understood. And putting a number on how good or bad those are is something that's very easy to understand for most managers who have never heard about localization. So for your buyers, this is a great tool to manage up, right? Even if you don't translate the bulk of their content, you can actually help them evangelize localization better. You can help them protect their budgets and so on and so forth, giving them a little bit of data from the translation quality services. I'm almost done with this part. Just a couple of things to keep in mind as we go into specific case studies. What are some of the reasons why you as LSP might want to sell those? So hopefully you have some directions already on your plate. I think there are several of them. Number one, I feel it's easier to compete with the really big guys with this kind of service. It's actually more niche, it's more rare, so you might have an easier time to actually be on the same playing field, even with much, much larger LSPs. I have seen this happen repeatedly with smaller, specialized LSPs who really know how to sell translation quality and how to deliver services around translation quality, outplaying really huge players in competitive battles. So you might actually have a better fighting chance as opposed to, trying to sell traditional translation services heads-on. Number two, and this is a direct consequences of the first, because you can play on this larger playing field for this niche type of service, you actually have a better chance to win great logos, great accounts for your portfolio. Now, you might not really earn tremendous amounts of revenue, I'll grant you that, but being able to name drop somebody like, Slack, or Electronic Arts, or whatever brands you guys might be thinking about is actually great, right? Just, by association with a name, you might have an easier time getting more prospects on board. Of course, we're talking about machine translation here, which is super data hungry. So if you master how to sell and how to deliver this data-driven linguistic quality services, which relies on data annotation, believe it or not, you're actually paving the way for your LSP to get into this AI data line of services. It's a huge opportunity for everyone. You might have seen that Taos has just released a report specifically on this new AI data services market for LSPs. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. Check it out. You'll learn so much more about it. And translation quality and the things, the operations you do inside it are the best segue into this type of services, more accounts, more sales, more deals. And of course, it's a fun new service to sell for your sales team and for your account management team. I really like that. I've been, very passionate about complaining about other people's translations since I've started in this industry 18 years ago, trying to fix them. So I really believe this could be a nice break if you want to do something different at your LSP. Any questions before we head into examples of how other language service providers successfully sell translation quality as a service? You can just type stuff into chat. In the meantime, if you guys are thinking about something specific now, if you have a deal you want to discuss, I will drop you this link that you can use to book a free consultation with myself. Any thoughts before that, though? All right. It's so quiet here. This is so weird. Yeah, being on stage with a live audience is a bit nicer than that, but I guess this will have to do until we have the conferences back. Anyway, let's continue. So I promised you 3 examples of how other LSPs have successfully done it, how they've won major deals, major brands, exactly by selling translation quality related services. Whoa, where's number 1? Here it comes. In this case, it's a global top 75 LSP. They were trying for several years to win this contract with a top automotive brand. It's a car manufacturer here in Europe, by the way. And they really had a difficult time of winning that RFP. The requirements were really strict. And even though this LSP actually had other companies from the same company group already in their portfolio, they were still struggling. So they missed the previous opportunity. They lost the previous RFP to offer this regular quality inspection of other LSPs translations to the buyer. And they were really scrambling for a new tactic when they stumbled upon, well, it's not a surprise. They actually stumbled upon ContentQuo's translation quality platform. So basically, I'll tell you what we did. They are very experienced in terms of services, and they've been selling translation quality services for years. So I labeled this webinar as a new sales channel. Obviously, it was not new for them. They've done this maybe for over a decade, maybe more, and they still couldn't win. So basically what we've done was we helped them win that very tough RFP with this top automotive brand. We actually sold together with them. I personally flew in to this automotive client. I gave them a presentation of how our technology coupled with that LSP services can meet their requirements. And everything was great. And then some kind of nothing was happening for a couple of months. And then bam, actually dropping me an email saying, hey, we actually won this RFP. When can we start running the services? So long story short, they basically had to invest nothing. They were able to use their expertise in the services already had and the relationship within the group of companies. They just needed a bit of extra magic on top. So this technology component that we helped provide to them. And what happened, instead of winning just one RFP, they actually came back to us in late 2020 and said, hey, we actually have another client that wants to buy LQA, language quality inspection services from us. Can you help us with technology again? So basically they won twice for one effort. It's another automotive brand that also wants this kind of language quality inspection services. And they actually earned some 6-digit extra revenue from those two deals, not to mention at least 10% higher profit margins due to the automation, due to the process streamlining that ContentQuo was able to provide to them. Any questions about this LSP, Global Top 75, and this automotive deal for translation quality services, RFP that we actually help them win? You can ask me whatever you want. Like, there are some things I cannot share with you for confidentiality reasons, but I want to help you understand that this is something you can also do in your company, in your team. And this is actually not as difficult as you might think, right? So sometimes we've seen companies struggle really hard. Like in this case, for years, they had to wait for another RFP opportunity for 2 or 3 years, I think. And then with just a little extra, pepper, a little bit of special sauce on the top, they were able to win the deal. Now they're in year 2. Like I said, they've just added another brand from the same group was also interested in the services and in the technology platform that we offer. We will have a case study with a bit more details that you will be able to get after the webinar is over. So if you don't have questions right now, no worries. Let's look at another example. So it's not, of course, the only LSP that can do this. There are many more. I'm just talking about the stories that we were part of, where we were able to help with our technology to help that LSP build up a new line of business, or as in this case, it's another Global Top 75 LSP. In this case, they were actually already having this account, and it's a major pharmaceutical brand, by the way. They already had this account, I think, for 1 or 2 years, but unfortunately, the client was not happy with how the LSP was delivering this kind of third-party language quality inspection. So the LSP was checking translations that the buyer was procuring from the other major LSPs, mind you, like the Global Top 10 guys, and they've engaged this Global Top 75 player to check and report on those translations. Crunch the numbers, get all the data in one place, share actionable feedback for improvement, and so on and so forth. So they were already doing this for a while when we started to talk to them. And it turned out that the customer was at the risk of letting them go, dropping that LSP, actually stopping using their services entirely and switching to another provider, because they were not happy with how the operations were running. It was slow. They were not getting enough insights about the quality of their translations. And it was like a make it or break it kind of situation. I think the contract was due for renewal. And that LSP that we have worked with at ContentQuo, they scrambled really hard to keep that deal on board. Also because operationally, they couldn't do everything their client wanted them to do. There was a lot of manual work involved with their existing technology platform they used to deliver this kind of quality inspection service. So the project managers were overworking and the profit margins were basically disappearing. So there were not just 1, but 2 reasons for this LSP to worry: losing a key account, but also not earning enough from this account. So we were able to step in. Instead of co-selling with that LSP, we've done it differently. So we stayed behind the scenes, and ContentQuo has provided, insights and input on closing that deal. They went for a fully white-labeled platform, right? So instead of using ContentQuo as is, they actually replaced everything in the product with their logos, their names, and so on. So basically, they've offered a completely new technology solution to the client, hosted in their private cloud, by the way, because the client is highly security sensitive. And at the marginal investment, I think they needed to do some product tweaks, like some adjustments, some minor changes. They were able not just to retain this key account in life sciences that they had, but also to expand. So they secured additional volume of work They will be reviewing much more words this year than they did in the past. And I think in more language pairs too, they have 40 plus now, maybe 50, I'm not quite sure. And what's even better, their production team, the LSPs, project managers, quality managers and account managers that were overworked because the previous platform didn't work for them, they're actually now much happier. So there are two things they were able to do to keep that account, both making their in-house team more productive and, of course, less stressed as a result, and persuading the client that they've completely changed the technology platform and actually investing into something that is their own dedicated quality-focused solution. So for them, that strategy has worked amazingly well, and we keep seeing more and more work from that LSP in the ContentQuo technology platform. Any questions about the second case study? So this is life sciences. Very interesting account served by huge LSPs. A global top 10 is maybe even an understatement. Global top 5 is more like it. So their primary LSPs are enormous, right? It's impossible to outcompete. You might only hope to be, a supplier to them, like a sub vendor or a subcontractor, but those guys actually found a different way in. By offering translation quality as a service, they were able to secure and improve this relationship with a little bit of help from ContentQuo, just on the technology side. Again, we're prepping a case study. It will be available slightly later with a bit more details on what exactly was going on in the deal and how everything has worked out. In the meanwhile, feel free to ask me questions if you want to know more about it. Number 3, last but not least, I really like this one. I think this is the latest deal that we helped an LSP to close around translation quality services. This one is quite different. It's actually a larger LSP. It's the global top 40, not top 70 anymore. So it's a pretty huge company. And they were selling to a government agency in this case. There were many services involved. It was a huge RFP. There was an existing huge LSP serving that account. The client actually decided to make a change, and there was a rush to bid for that RFP. And our customer, the LSP that we're directly working with at ContentQuo, they were bidding for that RFP as well. It took a tremendous amount of time to complete. I think, I might be mistaken, but something like 9 or 10 months is basically, this is how much they had to wait until the results were actually announced and they were able to deal with the challenges, and they were significant. So the previous LSP, the incumbent vendor that was serving this government agency, they've actually provided dedicated technology to monitor the quality of translations coming from empty engines. They had a good solution in place. So a big challenge for all the new contenders was to match exactly or improve upon what the previous LSP has been doing. And it's no small feat, trust me when I say that. So it's not only about the services, it's also about the technology solution you can bundle or offer with those services. So that's exactly what this LSP was able to do, was a little bit of help from ContentQuo. Again, in this one, we stayed behind the scenes while they were bidding for the deal. We've consulted them on the technology. They actually had to do a little bit of customization as well, so add some features into the product, because like I said, the previous LSP already had a very specific solution. So we had to replicate this, but it was actually not really difficult with the flexible platform that we have. It was just a small marginal extra fee they had to invest. There was a lot of waiting involved until the RFP bidding was complete, but I'm very happy. I was very, very happy when, I think this was late summer, something like August 2020, when they reached back to me and said, hey, Kirill, we actually have won this RFP, believe it or not. So we're going to start offering this machine translation quality inspection as a service to them. And this is when we went into tweaking the platform, adding and configuring the custom features. There were quite a few things the client wanted to have in terms of analytics. again, because they already had a very specific solution that we had to match, but we were able to do that for that LSP. And now they basically in for a very lucrative 4-year contract with that government agency, doing lots of services for them, but also, and this is something that I really like, this is what you guys can also do at your LSP, even if your profile and your scope is smaller, inspecting the quality of machine translation, raw MT, post-edited MT analysis, helping companies select the most suitable mix of engines for the different languages. This is a great avenue to earn through language quality services focused on machine translation. It's a black box. Nobody knows how it works. Everybody wants to make sure they make the best deal. They select the best solutions, or usually several solutions for their buck. Okay, so that was the third LSP's case study. Any questions on the third one? Machine translation quality assessment. Very new, but very, very promising. These are really tough to pull off if you don't have the know-how and the technology, but thankfully we have gathered some expertise on that as well. So in this case, it was quite helpful for them. Any questions, any thoughts? Okay, so we're shortly wrapping up here. I wanted to go through some ways of how to make this practical for you, right? So long story short, it's possible to earn quite a lot of extra revenue for your LSP and new types of services like novel services, which are focused around gathering data about the quality of translations done by others, human vendors, freelancers, machine translation engines, you name it. We have the best technology to help your LSP drive this kind of sale. It's a magic ingredient that you can add to your deal that actually helps win those kind of complex, large-scale deals. We've done it before. We'll do it again. So if you guys have something on your radar, feel free to let us know. I've dropped the link previously into the chat window. If you guys want to book a free consultation, be my guest. It's still open. I'll go through some typical questions I've had from LSPs in the past of what can go wrong if we partner up in this way. It's like, will you steal our clients? No, there's no way we can do that because we at ContentQuo do not sell language services. We actually have been doing this, both between myself and my co-founder, for a long, long time. I was buying language services. He was selling language services. We don't want to do that again. You guys are the best for this job, so we don't need your clients. We can't take them away from you. Instead, we can actually help you win them, secure your relationship, and retain them for longer, earning more money. We're also, for the same reason, not interested in your linguists because we don't sell the services. You guys are the go-to people for that. We're great at protecting proprietary client information. We've passed information security audits from some of the largest organizations in the world, like the European Parliament, for instance, who is my favorite customer. Of course, the things that we can do with our technology for your profit margins are great as well. Not only we help you sell, we actually help you deliver the service in a much more efficient and streamlined way. So you need a smaller team, you can do more with less, and it actually works great. We've been engaged into all sorts of deals before, so probably we have seen what you have on your table right now, and we're happy to share our thoughts on what worked for other LSPs. The software we build is easy to integrate. It's very flexible and customizable, etc., 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 etc. I think there's a question in the chat. Yeah, Jan was asking a question about the right profile of staff to work on ContentQuo. We actually do this as well. So this depends a little bit on the type of partnership that we choose and the financial implications. I will cover this just now. Basically, three main ways we can partner with you guys if you're looking at something that has translation quality as a component, as a service that you want to sell to earn new revenue. First, we can support you on specific individual deals. You have one thing on your table, it has quality as a component. We can work with you in order to help your company, your LSP close it, staying in the shadow. You don't have to expose us if you don't want to. But this is also an option. This is another option. We're actually trying this out now with some of the attendees today. This is great. We call this co-selling. You might have heard about this in the first case study I've shared. So this is where we go directly with you to your customer. You guys sell your services, we sell our technology, and this is great. They have the flexibility, they have the choice, they have two independent parties to consult with. And this actually works great because it's a win-win-win for the client. It's a win for you. You guys don't have to buy software. You don't have to even, get this into your word rates, although you can. I will explain this a bit later. And of course, we win because we get more users for our technology platform. Last bit here, like the most comprehensive option that we have is the advisory option. Probably more useful when you want to start like something major, like a new line of business. You need more strategic help on how to develop the offering, how to craft your pitch, and so on and so forth. So we are happy to do this as well. Basically, from the smallest involvement with your LSP on like one deal you want to close to something more permanent, more strategic, we're open to the different options. If you have the right team in place, the right type of prospects you are targeting, and we are confident that we can help you. So if it's not the case, I will be the first person to tell you. Financially speaking, I've mentioned this briefly, talking about the case studies from LSPs, how you can access our technology. Easiest and best way, this is when you just resell our stuff to your prospect alongside the services. If you guys are able to do that, and we will of course help you close the deal, we even pay out commissions once we get money from your clients, and you can start working with them. You might actually not start working with them. It's not material for us. So this is a very straightforward, simple, and fair way. You introduce your service clients to us. We sell technology to them together with you. You can do this on our behalf, and so on and so forth. And you actually get paid for that. And then you can actually use it for other clients. You can use it in-house, internally, to streamline your vendor operations, your machine translation operations, and so on and so forth. Number two option, we've seen this work quite well. I think 2 of 3 case studies I've listed did that. So actually they bundle the ContentQuo subscription fees into their service rates. So their word rates are slightly higher, like literally the deals within the 1 percentage point, half a percentage point. It's a tiny increase. Or hourly rates, right? You can do the same. So it's basically invisible to your client. You're actually kind of charging them for this extra bit for the technology platform, but it's a minor impact in terms of per word or per hour rate. It's a huge benefit for your team because you get to save so much more manual work of not having to send like Excel spreadsheets around and stuff. It's fascinating. I have, ROI calculations that will blow your socks off if you want. But yeah, this is easy to do. You don't have to expose us. You can just say, this is what our services cost per word. And then ContentQuo subscription is just a part of that fee. And last but not least, of course, if you want to primarily use ContentQuo internally, you have many deployments like that as well, where we're not part of the sales deal, where we're simply used by the LSP's operations or production team in order to streamline their process. You can simply just pay for the subscription. And then if you choose the right plan, you can host multiple client accounts inside your own ContentQuo. So we're very flexible in this respect. We might even have some other ideas if you talk about your specific situation. And I'm pretty much done. I'll just mention what other things I will share with you after this webinar is over. Quite a few things. I want to call out one. It's the ebook we've recently started writing. So this is meant for your clients, okay? But I think if you read it, you will learn much more about how to sell those translation quality services, especially to more sophisticated buyers, right? To people who have expertise and experience in the localization industry. So check that out. You will get this link with a slide deck later on, and you'll get to access the case studies, the ebook, our previous webinar recordings, which I also encourage you to watch, and there's a short overview of ContentQuo software technology solutions. Right, this is it. If you guys have an existing deal that you want us to help close, please click that link now. I'll drop it again into the chat window. Like I said, it's open, still open right now. And it will probably stay open for a bit longer just because I need a break after the webinar. You can book time until end of January. You have to do it now, basically. And then the next opportunity to do this will only come in Feb. I can only do 5 of those free slots each month, okay? I'm not sure I will do this in Feb, actually. So if you have something on your plate, either something specific or something general, please book me now. It can be difficult to get hold of me. Here's how to contact me. You have my email, you have my phone. LinkedIn works great. Check out our website. It has more information. And with that, I'm done. Thank you very much and happy selling of translation quality services. I will take your questions now. Okay, we see people raising hands. Right, there's one question already asked by Jan about the right profile of people to work on this kind of services. Okay, basically, what I've seen work best, especially if you're just starting with this kind of service line with translation quality services, take something who has a background in editing or revising text or proofreading. They are usually the best suited type of linguist to train for inspecting translation quality. There are different ways to get them trained. Like we have a support program for that as well on one of our subscription plans, so we can train your linguists to use ContentQuo to do this error annotation or MT engine evaluation if you want to. They're actually training courses, like practical training available for that you can use. So there are many ways to do that, again, depending on the volume and the scale and the language pair. But yeah, the right profile of people, the ones with attention to detail, who love spotting mistakes in other people's translations. So that would probably be the best type of resource to engage into this kind of service. There are other options, of course. You have like specialists, experts who have worked on LQA for major LSPs, very senior people. If you can get hold of them, if you can make them work for your project, that's great. There are actually quite a few of them already. Some of them actually know quite well how to use ContentQuo as a tool, which is easy. But yeah, that can be an added benefit. So you can assemble like a top tier team as well. You don't have to train your own linguists for that, but you can. Hope this answered the question. Let's see what else I have. Thank you. Thank you for staying here and thank you for asking the questions. I hope this was helpful. There was a raised hand from somebody. Let me see. Guys, can you raise your hand one more time? You can actually ask your question live as well with your voice. I will allow you to talk if you want. Any more questions? Any more deal-specific stuff that you guys are working on, or like tactical advice that you need? All right, it's pretty quiet. I hope you're digesting the strategies. Okay, there's a question in the chat from Jan. How about onboarding best practices? Are we talking about onboarding the customers for this kind of services, or is this about the production team? Production team, yeah, okay. This is usually the part where we can provide help, especially if you're setting up like a new client account with ContentQuo. We can do like a specific training session, help you set up the workflows, you know, the operational aspects like quality profiles and whatnot. Usually this is how we've done it with other LSPs that sell a lot of translation quality services. So we go by account, and then we can do like a specific tailored onboarding session to cover specifically that account, as opposed to just, you know, sharing generic advice, trying to hit all the birds with just one stone. That can work if you have a very experienced team. You don't need to adjust things as much anymore, but we can also do it differently, like very hands-on, very detailed approach. As long as you guys have the deal, the services that you either trying to sell or have already sold, this is definitely one easy way to do that. And then also, like in ContentQuo, we have this success program that is part of the higher subscription plans. This is where we set up like a dedicated time every month to sit down with your team, go through the questions they specifically might have on this account or that account, and work with you together on how to resolve them, either in terms of methodology or sales and account management strategies, or technology in use, or the linguistic skills and expertise and process, and so on and so forth. So we can go into very low level detail if required. We can't do this for every subscription we have. Like the smaller subscriptions don't have that option, but on the larger plans, yeah, this is basically where I volunteer some of my time or my team's time to resolve specific like account level challenges you might have. And this works quite well. Next question. What is your integration roadmap for TMS? Great question. Technology always works best when it's integrated. You guys save more of your profit margins this way. Thanks for the feedback, Steve. I appreciate that. Anyway, integration is paramount, especially if you have multiple accounts you're running together at the same time, maybe different systems on the other end. Right now, we have 4 or 5 integrations already, I think. We have MemoQ, we have MemSource, we have WordBee, we have XTM. We've actually just scheduled SDL World Server. So this is going to come in Q1 this year. Q2, we're likely looking at SmartLink. This is still a bit of an open-ended question, but this is quite possible. And we'll see what Q3 brings. I might have some of the like more business type of systems on the roadmap, like XTRF or Plunet. This is great for LSPs, but not always the best way to integrate. So sometimes it's better just to go with the more translation need TMS, maybe of your client, right? But yeah, this probably is Q3 stuff this year. And then we'll see what else might come. We actually have machine translation integrations also like potentially on the roadmap. For example, Intento, which you guys might have heard of, it's an amazing solution for managing enterprise scale machine translation deployments, like choosing different engines, monitoring training results automatically, and so on and so forth. So we might actually have an Intento integration sometime Q2, Q3 this year. This will make it even easier to sell machine translation evaluation services through ContentQuo, like engine selection, for instance. So yeah, that might be coming as well. Any other questions? Anything else I can help you with in terms of selling translation quality related services, either for human translation or for machine translation? If you guys don't want to talk about it in public, please book a private call. Like I said, the link will still open. Yeah, Steve knows what he's talking about. We've been partnering with the team at Intento for a while now, and actually working on some deals together, which is a very natural fit, specifically for machine translation, because it's actually very complex. There's no one technology solution that can cover all the needs of machine translation deployments at scale. Small stuff, you can kind of wing it. Big stuff, you cannot. So basically what you need to do is it's like a Japanese or like a transformer robot, right? You have multiple smaller robots, and then they assemble together and form a huge mega robot that basically crushes machine translation as a service, right? But you need to have those smaller robots. So everybody's now is building one type of robot. We have one type of robot here at ContentQuo. Intento is the same. And engine providers have another piece of the same robot. You need to put them together, or else it will start to break down spectacularly. So yeah, that's how MT deployments can sometimes be. Use cases are different, raw versus post editing, and so on and so forth. Yeah, no one fit for all. We don't have it either. I think the guys at Intento don't have it yet. Engine vendors don't have it. Proprietary MT builders don't have it. So we need to combine. We need to build complex solutions for MT. This is why it's hard to answer Jan's question of how to approach an MT project. Let's talk about the details. You know my email, drop me notes. We can definitely book something and look at the details. I think that's so different in like large scale, small scale, early stage, late stage. use case, like Rodrigo said, like raw versus post editing, high quality post editing versus low quality post editing, or light PE. Let's drill down on the details. This is exactly why I set aside some of my time to look at maybe specific things or directions you want to go. I cannot share everything, but I will give you some hints about how to think about MT. Hopefully that will help. Definitely interesting for an ebook. We'll see about that. We don't have an ebook specifically for MT yet, but we have done a webinar on machine translation quality and how to take that under control. So check it out. There are some more specific, concrete ideas like services you can also try and offer to your clients or to your prospects. You will have a link to that as part of the webinar resource package with all the other case studies and ebooks and whatnot. I think I'm out of time for today. Thank you very much. You've been a great audience. Thanks for staying until the end. So we will make the recording available later. And remember, there's still time to book your free consultation slot for January until spots run out. I think there are only 3 left right now. So there's still a bit of time to react and jump on it if you act quickly. Thank you very much. This was Kirill Soloviev from ContentQuo, and best of luck selling translation quality services. Hopefully we'll get a chance to partner with you up on that real soon. And until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.